What's up, all you hip cool cats? My name is Kit. Welcome to Chicago Reacts. We hope all of you are having a fantastic time joining us with this adventure of History of Russia, Part 4, by Epic History, where we last left off. Turns out the new Tsar has a military revolt because he's just a stick in the mud. He doesn't know how to be flexible. He's too conservative. He doesn't like things to be changed, and we don't know what's going to lie in store for him. However, do you want to know what's pretty cool that's consistent? That is joining us, subscribing to us on our Twitch channel, Chicago Plays. That's right, we have fun video game adventures there. It's always fun all the time, where you laugh, dance, play games, interact with our community. I am live every Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. The wonderful, incredible, outstanding, legendary Kira is live every 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time every Friday. Michael and Zach are live Mondays at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And, of course, the wonderful, incredible, outstanding, talented Kelsey is live every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you don't got it, get it. And if you don't get it, go figure it out. Subscribe, follow us on Twitch, Chicago Plays, Chicago_Plays. So be sure to check us out there. That link is in the description box below. We have a lot of fun. But now, let's enjoy History of Russia, Part 4 by Epic History TV.
(1825). Victory over Napoleon had confirmed Russia's status as a world power. But there was discontent within Russia amongst intellectuals and army officers, some of whom had formed secret societies to plot the overthrow of Russia's autocratic system. When Emperor Alexander was succeeded, not as expected by his brother Constantine, but by a younger brother Nicholas, one of these secret societies used the confusion to launch a military coup. But the Decembrist revolt, as it became known, was defeated by loyalist troops, and the ringleaders were hanged.
Wow.
Others were sent into internal exile in Siberia.
You got a problem? Put it in Siberia. You got an issue? Put it in Siberia. Need to take care of a situation? You put it in Siberia. Anything else? You put it in Siberia. Just trust me on it. If it stays in Siberia, it's going to be frozen. I overdid it with the joke on that one. All right. I'm sorry.
This was to become a common sentence for criminals and political prisoners in Tsarist Russia.
Okay, that's not funny, but, hey, you got a problem? Put it in Siberia.
Nicholas went on to adopt an official doctrine of orthodoxy, autocracy, and nationality.
Okay.
The state was to rest on the pillars of church, Tsar, and the Russian national spirit, a clear rejection of the values of European liberalism. In the Caucasus, border clashes with Persia led to a war which ended in complete Russian victory. The Treaty of Turkmenchai forced Persia to cede all its territories in the region to Russia and pay a large indemnity. Russian support for Greece in its war of independence against the Ottomans led to war between Russia and the Ottoman Empire. Russian victory brought further gains in the Black Sea region. A Polish revolt, led by young army officers, was crushed by Russian troops.
I'm wondering what prevented them from taking Constantinople, or Istanbul at the time. Because, when we saw the previous videos, way early on, when Moscow was still a feudal kingdom, there were, of course, people saying that Moscow was the third Rome. I wonder what prevented the military forces, especially if they're being successful against the Ottoman Empire, what was preventing them from taking Constantinople? I know this is a video that's giving us a crash course, I get it, but I'm kind of curious because, that's something that maybe might have been brought up, or maybe it just wasn't of value.
Alexander Pushkin, Russia's greatest poet, was shot in a duel, and 2 days later died from his wounds. Nicholas sent troops to help put down a Hungarian revolt against Austrian rule. The emperor's willingness to help suppress liberal revolts won him the nickname the gendarme, or policeman of Europe. Russia's first major railway was opened, connecting St. Petersburg and Moscow. Alexander Herzen, a leading intellectual critic of Russia's autocracy, emigrated to London, where he continued to call for reform in his homeland. He'd later be described as the father of Russian socialism. The Ottoman Empire, now known as the sick man of Europe, reacted to further Russian provocations by declaring war. The Russian Black Sea Fleet inflicted a crushing defeat on the Turks at the Battle of Sinope. But Britain and France, alarmed at Russia's southern expansion and potential control of Constantinople, declared war on Russia. The Allies landed troops in Crimea and besieged the naval base of Sevastopol, which fell after a grueling year-long siege.
Okay, I guess my question was somewhat answered because they were making their campaign towards Constantinople. Now, different subject altogether, but I do know that when Constantinople did fall at the time to the Ottoman Turks, the last days of the Byzantine Empire, a lot of religious leaders, the Pope, kings, were all kind of demanding on doing a crusade to save the city and get Constantinople back, but it never came into fruition. And I'm wondering, was that a political move by Britain and France was that a political move by Britain and France at the time to stop Russia from saving the cities, stopping them from doing it? I mean, that's interesting that they would do that just to stop it. But I mean, I guess maybe the city was far more valuable towards who would get it. And wow, fascinating.
In the Baltic, British and French warships blockaded the Russian capital, St. Petersburg. Russia was forced to sign a humiliating peace, withdraw its forces from the Black Sea, and put on hold plans for further southern expansion. Nicholas I was succeeded by his son, Alexander II. The Crimean War had exposed Russia's weakness. The country lagged far behind its European rivals in industry, infrastructure, and military power. So Alexander, unlike his father, decided to embrace reform. The most obvious sign of Russia's backwardness was serfdom. According to the 1857 census, more than a third of Russians were serfs, forced to work their master's land with few rights, restrictions on movement, and their status passed down to their children.
Not right.
They were slaves in all but name. In 1861, Alexander II abolished serfdom in Russia. He was hailed as the liberator. But in reality, most former serfs remained trapped in servitude and poverty. Alexander's reforms would continue with the creation of the Zemstva, provincial assemblies with authority over local affairs, including education and social welfare. In the Far East, Russia forced territorial concessions from a weakened China, leading to the founding of Vladivostok, Russia's major Pacific port.
Interesting.
Another uprising by Poles and Lithuanians against Russian rule was once more crushed by the Russian army. In the Caucasus, Russia's long and brutal war against local tribes came to an end, with their leaders swearing oaths of loyalty to the Tsar. In Central Asia, the Russian Empire was gradually expanding southwards. Russian armies defeated the Emirate of Bukhara and the Khanate of Khiva. And by the 1880s, Russia had conquered most of what was then called Turkestan, today the countries of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan.
Wow.
Imperial rivalry in Central Asia between Russia and Britain led to the Great Game, a 19th century version of the Cold War. Centered on Afghanistan, diplomats and spies on both sides tried to win local support, extend their own influence, and limit the expansion of their rights.
I think from everything we have seen, if you want your empire to fall apart, go to Afghanistan. If you don't want your empire to fall apart, stay out of Afghanistan. Many people have learned this, including our good friend Alexander the Great, and so on, and so many others. Afghanistan still plays a role, no matter what time era it's in.
While avoiding direct military confrontation. Russia decided to sell Alaska to America for $7.2 million. Many Americans thought it was a waste of money. Gold and oil were only discovered there.
Okay, I'm not laughing. It's just like, hey, look, we got this stuff over here in America. It's this big hunk of land. It's called Alaska. What are we doing? I don't know. Sell it to those jag-off Americans. They ain't going to do jack with it, right? What? It's nothing but a bunch of snow, right? God, what was the name of the guy that bought it? The last name that it was his name. It was called His Folly. I wish we could get the guy's name. I'm sorry. My brain isn't working at 100% because I'm senile and old. But that is just so funny. That is just like, $7.2 million, $120 million today. So if you win the lottery ticket, you got it. Alaska today now worth, $4 trillion? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Much later, Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace was published, still regarded as one of the world's greatest works of literature. The late 19th century was a cultural golden age for Russia, a period of literary greats and outstanding composers. Russia, in support of nationalist revolts in the Balkans against Ottoman rule, went to war with the Ottoman Empire once more. Russian troops crossed the Danube, then, with Bulgarian help, fought to secure the vital Shipka Pass. Then they launched a bloody 5-month siege of Plevna in Bulgaria. Russia and her allies finally won victory, with their troops threatening Constantinople itself. But at the Congress of Berlin, Russia bowed to international pressure and accepted limited gains, in a settlement that also led to independence for Romania, Serbia, Montenegro, and later Bulgaria. Meanwhile, within Russia, radical political groups were increasingly frustrated by Alexander II's limited reforms. There were several failed attempts to assassinate the emperor. But as he prepared to approve new constitutional reforms, he was killed in St. Petersburg by a bomb thrown by members of the People's Will, one of the world's first modern terrorist groups. This act of violence would lead only to a new era of repression. Did you know?
All right. Well, we've learned a lot in that video already. Alaska Purchase, Steward's Folly. That's what it was called. All right. Thank you so much for that. Steward's Folly. I bet the ghost of Stewart's right now looking at his fellow dead contemporaries like, oh, Oh, not so much of a folly now, huh? All that stuff, and they're like all of his rivals and people making fun of him, like them thinking like, oh, geez, he won't shut up for all eternity now about it. Oh, hey, I just got us all that stuff in Alaska. Anyways, Stuart, well done. It wasn't much of a folly. So there you go. We are learning a lot about the history of Russia, and it turns out the emperor. There's probably a little bit more to it, the reforms that he was trying to bring in. If he didn't get killed, we don't know what they would have looked like. But the people's will, I think you kind of overplayed your hand a little bit, guys and gals. But we'll find out what happens in the next episode of Dragon Ball Z, History of Russia. So be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join us on our fun adventure. Take care.